I grew up in communist Hungary at the time. It was in the middle of communism. And the way out of those places that you had to be a scientist that is on a super high level, so you can go to international conferences, or you had to be an athlete so you can leave the country. We didn't have passports. We didn't have an ability to go to basically Western countries. And at age 7, 8, I was like, I'm out of here. This is not for me. I already awoke pretty quickly what this was, the propaganda. And, I had a moment of clarity where I remember there was a strike in America. I think it was a transportation industry on strike. And, we had one TV channel and it was all propaganda. And they were boasting about like, oh my God, America is coming down. The bourgeois finally got taken down by the proletariat. And I mean, they were giving us this, this boistering, this whole thing where, yeah, America is over. And I was looking at it as a 7-year-old and I'm like, hold on for a second. So in America, you can go out on the streets with a sign and say that you're not happy with the system and you don't get arrested. Nobody beats you up. Nobody puts you in prison.
Wow.
So the propaganda actually achieved exactly the opposite for me. I didn't look at it as a celebration of, oh yeah, they're going down. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. They have rights that we don't. And people around me, I was telling my dad like, hey, how the hell this works? And they didn't even understand. They were so ingrained, so they were so beaten down and controlled that they couldn't even believe this. I was a kid and I'm leaving. I'm going to America. I'm gonna play rock music. Everybody was laughing at me. That's not possible.
So you're saying that since age 7?
So that was one. Yeah, that was stage. So that was one reason that I needed to do some kind of a sport that will give me the opportunity, right? We did have we did have that situation where the neighborhoods were not rough, but we didn't have anything else to do, just beating the crap out of each other. We didn't have TVs, toys, computers, none of that. So basically we were fighting, either playing soccer or fighting. And so that was one more thing that, and the other is that I was a very, you would say, geeky kid in a sense. I was really interested in science. By the time I was 7, 8, by the time I could read, I was reading science books. I was interested in particle science, and I was going to the observatorium, studying as a kid. Most of my friends were professors from the university.
Oh wow!
As a kid, a summer camp for me would be like I would take off with basically these professors. We would have a camp somewhere. This is all the astrologers.
Yeah,
scientists
and music. How did you come about music? I know this is an obvious question that many of the people already know about you for the exposure that you have with your band, one of the greatest, in your style. But I'm talking about this from a selfish perspective. So I'm just like, tell me when you started playing guitar.
So same era,
same as martial arts.
Same as martial arts. Like this, as I said, this was a combination of understanding that I have to be smarter, faster, stronger than anyone around me to be able to proceed and to possibly get out of here or be successful at life. And again, if you even look at that, like the kids who were playing music or the kids who were like scientifically oriented, they would be the geeky kids, right? And I had a different view. If you're really intelligent, would you allow yourself to be weak? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I looked at it that way, that I am interested in music. I am interested in science, but I'm not going to be the kid you can mess around with.
Right.
So I started judo when I was 9 years old. So I was one of those kids that I was kind of living outside of what would you call the cliques in school.
Right.
I could be a chameleon. I could move around and not belong to any of the cliques. And I was just interested in pretty much, I would say, almost everything, but music, which in some ways also science.
Yeah.
Music was interesting to me. Music started a little bit later because I was already doing martial arts. I was already doing judo, but but I couldn't really get a guitar. That was not a possible thing.
Yeah.
Like
They talk about you made a guitar out of a coffee table.
yes. So so I was at first I was really into British punk music that kind of transformed into heavy metal, hard rock. That's what I was listening to, and I was really interested in that. That to me was sort of the voice of the rebellion. It was not okay, that type of music in my country. Radio would never play something like that. So it was more of an underground scene. And and so to me that was also a sort of a vehicle, like, oh, this is not just the music, but also it's a vehicle of rebellion in some way. And but I couldn't afford a guitar. And when I got a secondhand guitar that was sort of in pieces, it had some usable parts. The machine has the pickups and this and that. So I took the jigsaw and then I hit my parents' coffee table. That was a big thick piece of wood. And I made my first guitar, which was kind of an unplayable piece of crap, but it was a guitar. Wow. That's where I started. Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So how was the evolution between the resolved mindset that this is what you told me? You said something like everybody was going on the street towards one direction, and that was the direction given by the powers that be and everybody else. So nobody saw an alternate route.
Right.
And you already made a decision, I'm not going that direction.
Right.
And I understand you had to resolve one day I'm going to play in America or I'm going to be in America, despite the fact that I don't have a passport. So you put that in your head.
Right.
So between that vision that you had back then and continue to talk about it and people discrediting you, that showed a bit your resilience because you didn't take their naysay as a detractment to your goal. But transport through time and fast forward to, what led one thing to another until the time you finally landed in the land of opportunity.
So I don't know what I would have to give the credit to. It just happened that I always had this analytical mind of everything I looked at immediately. To me, it's almost a mathematical equation. I look at situations, even martial arts, even jiu-jitsu that we're doing. I'm looking at, I'm not looking at techniques. I'm not looking at the idea of like, what can I reach?
You're big on patterns.
Yes.
Yeah.
I look at patterns and I look at the physics. I look at your balance. And instead of thinking of techniques, I'm just going to mess with your balance. I want you to fight gravity, not me.
Yep.
So I always think that way. So from the early age, the first example, when I was looking at the TV of talking about the strike in America, I saw something in between the lines. And it's always been like that. There was a propaganda, obviously. Everything I was always taught, I always read between the lines. Like, what is really the truth here? So I was always searching. That's why, I guess that was also the alignment for why I was interested in particle science and why it was interesting, to be a scientist, because I wanted to know. I had this hunger of knowledge. I wanted to understand what's happening. And I had this feeling of what we are being taught is not correct.
Yep.
And so that always permeated everything I did. So it was a giant ball rolling toward the future. Like there was music, there was science, there was judo, and this quest for. Then I started meditate. I had an out-of-body experience when I was about 12, so that started ignited something. So by age 14, I was heavy duty into yoga and meditation, and even that, it's the Google at the time, right? I would go to the libraries, read books, and I would look the footnotes, so I can see where certain things were taken from.
Yep.
And I would find those books and read them. So I read hundreds and hundreds of books.
Yep. You reminded me of, I have a good friend of mine who has this mindset. He never takes no as an answer. When somebody tells him no, he says, why not?
Right.
So you remind me of that kind of outlook. Why not? Right. Why not be a musician? Why not go to America? Why not fulfill this purpose?
And why not you? Yeah, 100%.
Why not me?
Why not you? Right.
So
Well, in the beginning, you were asking that if martial arts in any shape and way shaped it. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, one of them is the procrastination. The other is that, you're doing martial arts your whole life too. So when you have to do something difficult, I have to fight a guy that's twice my size, right? And people are like, oh my God, okay. And I look at that and I say, well, this is an obstacle for most people. To me, this is a challenge. Can I beat him?
mhm.
Right? Is there a way?
Yep.
And that goes on to everything. Can I do this?
Yep.
Can I beat the odds? And to me, everything that's difficult and somebody says that cannot be done, now I'm interested.
I got you. Yeah, you said something. I saw one of your articles about the word impossible.
Right.
And you kind of changed the name to likely.
Right.
So it's not impossible. It's just
unlikely.
Yeah,
Right.
unlikely. But that
Unlikely.
doesn't mean that's
That
impossible.
doesn't mean no. Yes.
Right?
Correct. Uh-huh.
So I think it kind of like gave a different connotation
Right.
to the word. And I do believe that the vocabulary, the way it's orchestrated, people always take the negative as a sentence to death of a
Right.
dream. I cannot make this, or this is not possible. It's impossible. And then you said, why not?
Mhm.
It may be not impossible, but unlikely.
Unlikely.
But if it's unlikely, that means there's potential.
Correct.
And then from that, you kind of build yourself up.
Well,
to-
100% you picked that one because
Yeah.
That's interesting. You know why? Because impossible is almost
It's a misnomer.
it's a definite.
I don't think it's the right word.
Well, words affect. Obviously, we are prisoners of our vocabulary, right?
Mhm.
Everything you think going to be in the language you're thinking in, and there's certain numbers of words and phrases that we can use, and so we are prisoners of that to begin with, right?
Mhm.
And so it's very important how we talk to ourselves.
Mhm.
And the word impossible is almost like it's a final state. It's impossible. Unlikely means unlikely, but it's possible. So unlikely turns impossible into a positive.
Yeah.
Like it's meaning it deletes that word. It makes it, well, it's unlikely, but it is possible.
Yeah.
And that's very different. And I do believe that those are the miracles that you have in your life.
Mhm.
And I'm very conscious of those things where something is unlikely,
Yeah.
right? Near impossible, unlikely is the same family, right? When something is unlikely and you did it, make a note of that, a mental note, and always remember. I have a ledger in my mind of the impossible things I did. And the reason for me to keep that ledger is that the more of this you have, the more of the miracles you remember.
Yep.
The next one is kind of automatic. You're not, because most people defeat themselves by themselves, right? It's the fear of failing, it's the fear of being ridiculed. That's why people procrastinate. That's why people look at obstacles and keep them as obstacles instead of changing them to challenges. And that's why they don't even embark on the journey, because they're like, oh, I'm not ready. Well, you're never going to be ready.
Mhm.
You just have to go. And so I keep this ledger of things that happened in my life that people would tell me that it was impossible, and I changed it. No, it's just unlikely. So, but I'm going to go try.
When you say ledger, do you actually journal or write things down?
Yes. Mhm.
So you can also remind yourself
Correct,
of
yes.
the benchmarks.
Absolutely,
that you went
absolutely. And then more of this you have when you look at your life, look back at your life, and you see the things that you did. Then, even though I keep the ledger, because ledger of what happened and the miracles and gratitude for what happened is an important equation that I have to keep.
Mhm.
But what I wanted, I think I achieved it when these things are automatic now. When the ledger is long enough, right, and somebody says like, "Let's climb this mountain," I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Doesn't matter how tall, doesn't matter how, and I'm not talking about a literal mountain, I'm talking about metaphorically speaking,
Sure.
a mountain. When something impossible comes up, I don't have this, again, impossible. Is it, or just unlikely?
Yep.
Right? And then it becomes automatic, and I don't even think about it anymore.
Yep.
Doesn't matter to me how difficult it seems.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go for it, and it's this is when it comes in. If you remember your miracles,
Yep.
then there is no opposing force. You're gonna stop sabotaging yourself by not believing that you can do it.
It's very powerful. So, just tell me, America,
Mhm.
you stepped over here.
Right.
You recall your humble beginnings. Just give me the process. So when did you realize you were manifesting it,
Right.
your vision?
So coming to America, first and foremost, I always mention this, but I will keep mentioning it. When I came to America the first time, I was flying into New York City, and I saw the Statue of Liberty, and it actually really hit me, like emotionally hit me, like, wow, this is happening. This is something I only saw in pictures. I know the history, I know where it came from, I know what it meant, but I never seen it. Obviously, I never been here, and so landing in America, I had this. I was in a sort of a mental ecstasy for a long time. I would go to, and I'm proud of this. I would go to these parks where things that I only saw in movies, like it was a park that belonged to some kind of I think a college, right? It was a football field with a track around it, and because college students would be there, and I would just go to the park, sit in the park, see them play in the park, baseball or running around in the track, and there was this giant American flag, but I mean a size of a house, just flying in the wind, and just sitting there, like, wow, I'm here, I'm here. There's this endless opportunity that we call endless opportunity, America, and the opportunities. To me, it was very real, because it's something that people use as a phrase, but there's a big difference that you heard it and you repeat it versus to somebody who grew up in a communist country